Hello, everyone. Happy 2020. Happy New Year to you all. I hope you're having a great start to the new year and that you're excited about everything that lies ahead. I am Tara Alamany. I am the founder of Emerald Lake Books. And today on our live cast, we're going to talk about how to write a book when you don't like writing. All right. So there's a lot of people who they need to have a book for one reason or another, whether it's because they're in academics and they need to publish regularly, or they're a CEO, and in order to be able to kind of keep climbing that career ladder, they need to publish. Or sometimes entrepreneurs, small business owners, they find that publishing a book is something that's going to help them advance their business and build brand visibility. So the problem is not everybody enjoys writing. A lot of people who write a book to build their business or brand or further a professional career are doing so because of the benefit of having a book, not because they have the aim or goal of being a writer. So, how do you go about writing a book when it's really not something that is your favorite thing to do? Well, we're going to talk about some different ideas. And I'm going to start first with one that is great for people who are very visual. It is called mind mapping. And essentially, what you're doing when you have a mind map is you create an illustration that starts out with kind of what your core concept is. So, I'm giving an example of what it looked like when I created one for my last book called Publish with Purpose. And from there, you're just going to jot down some ideas of what it is that are the major sections of your book. Now, if you're writing a book in order to build a business or career, what you want to think about is the ideal reader and the transformational journey you want to take them on. So, most likely, they've picked up your book because they have a problem they want to solve. And so, what are the 3 to 5 steps that would take them from where they currently are to where they want to be? Now, you're going to sandwich that around an introduction that kind of gives a context that demonstrates that you know where they currently are at and what end goal they're trying to achieve. And so then your primary steps go in between, and then you're going to conclude with a conclusion that kind of ties all the concepts together and celebrates the accomplishment of having put in the hard work of getting there. And so when you do that, you're going to start with these high level concepts, but then the next step is you're going to break down each one of these branches into further details. So that may end up ultimately looking something like this, where my introduction has a bunch of other small portions to it, and I throw in some case studies along the way to be able to validate the different points that are made. And so it's important as you kind of put together the framework for this book that you understand what that transformation is and how that you're going to take the reader through it. And in doing that, what this becomes is essentially an outline for your book. Now, some people, they really struggle with seeing a blank piece of paper when they're trying to do an outline. But the nice thing about mind mapping is that you can easily move pieces around from one branch to another. Maybe you decide that a certain topic that you wanted to cover fits better in another section, so you can move it someplace else and go from there. And so, after you've kind of created your outline, and there are other ways of doing this. This particular tool I use is a free tool called FreeMind, but some people use this in Trello. They'll set up different Trello boards, one for each chapter. Some people do it using Scrivener. Some people do it using index cards or sticky notes. There's all sorts of different ways you can do it. So you need to find that method that's going to work for you to be able to outline what that book's going to contain. And then what you want to do is for each of the lower level things, you want to write out 3 key concepts. What needs to go in each part of that to be able to support what it is that you've talked about? Now, then what you can do is take, if you're a teacher, a coach, a speaker, a trainer, any of these things, or if you have a podcast, or if you do live events, you can take actual event recordings and have them transcribed and start using different portions of the transcription to fill in the outline. This works really great when your book is something that's going along to, say, support a keynote speech that you do, but it also works when you have a journey that you need to take an ideal client through. And so just start recording some of the phone calls you have with your clients as you go through, and use your portions of the transcriptions, and of course record it with their permission first, but use your portions, the insights and information that you provide, and have them transcribed and put into the appropriate places in that outline that you've structured. Then the next thing you can do is, some people, they don't have those opportunities to be able to use live events. So what you might do instead is dictate. Now, a lot of people, they have one of these things nearby, right? Usually in hand's reach. And so if you go on your phone, one thing that most people don't pay attention to is the fact that when you open up the keyboard on your phone, at least on an Apple device, just to the left of the space bar in the keyboard is a little microphone. And that microphone is for dictation purposes. So if you click on that microphone and speak into the phone will then transcribe what it is that you are saying into text. And yeah, it's not 100% perfect, but it gets you most of the way there. And so you can take that information and store it, say, in an application. I like using Evernote, but there's all sorts of different apps you can use that then are accessible on your computer as well. So that when you get back to the office or you sit back down, it's a great opportunity then to continue taking that information and plugging it into that outline to further your book. As a matter of fact, when I wrote Publish with Purpose, one of the things that I've had great pride in being able to say is that it was 77 days from the day I first started writing until the day that I held the book in my hand. Now, I set aside one day each week purely for writing, but the majority of my writing was done dictating to my computer. In my case, I used an application called Dragon Naturally Speaking. But in the past, I have written blog posts in the car when I was chauffeuring my kids around simply by dictating into my phone, having it transcribed by the phone, and then being able to come back to the office and take what I'd written and stick it in WordPress, and I had a blog post ready. So there's all sorts of different ways you can use dictation to be able to create your content. The other thing, though, is that if it really feels like it's beyond you because maybe you can't get past what the structure of your book would be, you might benefit from hiring, at least for a short period of time, an author coach. The author coach can help you figure out what that framework is and what the key points are of each section of your book so that when you are ready to start filling in the blanks, you have a wholly structured book that is going to be able to work well for accomplishing the results that you want your readers to achieve. Now, some people, that's still not quite enough. So what you can do at that point in time is you can use something called ghostwriting. Now, there are plenty of ghostwriters out there, and they each work a little bit differently. But oftentimes, what's happening is they sit down and they interview the author of the book. And by asking questions that help them fill in the framework and the outline of the book, they're able to kind of write in your voice because they spend enough time with you to understand what your natural speech patterns are, how you typically say things. They may listen to videos that you have on YouTube in order to get a better handle on things. I actually ghost wrote a foreword for somebody once. And the way I ghost wrote the foreword, I wasn't able to interview the person. So what I did is I went out to their YouTube channel and I listened for the types of terms and phrases they used commonly so that I could make sure that when I wrote what needed to be written for this foreword, that I wrote it in that author's voice by using those phrases and those terms. So it was readily recognizable and consistent with his brand. Sometimes ghostwriters will prefer having you write about 50% of the content, and they can fill out the remaining 50% of the content to make sure that it is a professionally written book. So they build on what it is that you start with. So depending on which ghostwriter you work with, the process is going to be different. But this is great for people who may struggle with writing. They may have a ADHD or dyslexia or a disability that makes it difficult for them to sit for long periods of time to write, or they may simply be too busy and find it easier to have the assistance of somebody else who can take the first crack at writing their book, using their content, their information, the concepts that they want to share, and then bringing it to a point where the author can kind of polish it off and make sure that word choices that are used actually are things that they would say. One of the things you want to make sure is that if somebody's read your book and then they go and they work with you or they hear you speak, that it doesn't feel like it's two different people. And so it's always important that you have your mark on the book somewhere, even if it's just in doing that polishing edit and making sure the terms or the way things are said are the way that you would typically say them. But anyway, there's all sorts of reasons to write a book. It's beneficial for business, certainly, great for brand visibility. But not everybody has the desire to be an author. So these are some of the ways that you can accomplish the goal of having a book to build your business and brand without having to actually do all of the writing yourself. Or if you are going to do the writing yourself, in a way that makes it compartmentalize so that rather than sitting down and thinking about the fact that I have to write 60,000 words for my business book, I have to just talk about this one little segment. And you can spend, basically the length of a blog post on that segment. And by the time you've written them all together and blended them all together, you have a book that's going to really help you build your business, your brand, your visibility. It's going to attract clients who are the right people for you, and it's going to help you secure speaking engagements with the right audiences. So anyway, I hope you found these topics helpful. If you need any help with this, I'd like to invite you to reach out to us. Go ahead and post in the comments or contact me at emeraldlakebooks.com. You can go through our contact form. I still have a question mark in here as to what next week's topic was going to be, and I decided just before this that I was going to ask a question that I saw in Quora recently, which is, how can I tell if a publisher is good? So that's going to be next week's topic. So I will thank you for tuning in, and I will ask that you please subscribe to our live stream. We do these every Friday at 3 p.m. We ask questions that come into us and other places, so you can subscribe by hitting the little live notifications button at the top of this video. And if you have any questions, feel free to reach out to us. Once again, emeraldlakebooks.com, and we'd be happy to help you with your publishing needs. Bye.